Okay, I'm ready.
Are
Let's
you
do it.
ready?
Yep,
Are you scared by any chance?
a little bit.
Just a little bit. Don't be scared. It's gonna be fun.
I think that, I didn't want to necessarily fall into like the funnel that my mom and my sister had created already. And I wanted to kind of do my own thing. And then I thought, I was like, it'd be really cool to follow in that funnel of my family and continue on with field hockey. Sometimes it wasn't as fun for me to continue playing. I had a couple of times in high school where I sat my mom down and I didn't necessarily want to continue with playing. But I think sometimes you get a little overworked and you burn out sometimes growing up when you're constantly go, go, go. But obviously, in the long run, things pan out the way that they're supposed to, and you end up where you're supposed to be, and that happened to be Louisville for me. Okay, I'm ready.
Alrighty. All right. So, you ready for some fun?
Let's do
You know
it.
what the best part of this is for me? Like having a chance to kind of relive life with you guys as you guys kind of go back to memory lane and figure stuff out, and then kind of have it kind of make real sense in real life.
I know. I feel like we don't really, like me and you haven't really sat down ever and talked about it all before,
I know. So
which is
this is our
kind of
first chance.
crazy. I know.
Yeah. No, the cool part, like, is when I did it with Sophie
Hmm.
and I got through the interview and some of the stuff that she said was like, oh my God, like this could help people.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I got to do a whole series with all my girls
Yeah. I think it's a
because it's
great
just so,
idea. I'm excited
yeah.
for it.
And the thing is, like, we know each other enough that you feel comfortable being authentic and raw. Like some of the stuff she said, I was like, holy shit, she actually said that.
Kenny, I've
But it
known
was
you for 12 years,
right,
longer than
right.
that, I think,
Not yeah, long. I think it was more like 14.
which is nuts.
I know, right? All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It, my podcast that I have created to kind of um, help as many field hockey athletes as I can. And you know what? If it helps other athletes in other sports, that's awesome as well. I'm going through a series of what I would call something like "Where Are They Now?" And my guest today is Mackenzie Karl, who is a field hockey midi and played at Westfield High School here in Northern Virginia and had a nice career. And she went on to play at Louisville. Before we get started, here's some cool facts about Mackenzie. Um, she probably had one of the most decorated high school careers in Virginia. Her mother was also a legendary, not only a field hockey player, but also a field hockey coach who has won multiple championships. And her sister also played field hockey and coached collegiately. So she comes from a background of really successful field hockey players, which we're going to circle back around and talk about a little bit and see how that kind of affected her in her pathway. Just to get a little history on our guest today, these are some of her career highlights. In 2017, Virginia 6A state champion. In that year, their team at Westfield went 24-0 with 18 shutouts and only allowed 7 goals that season. Pretty impressive.
Great team.
Great team. It was. I was there for those games. Virginia 6A State Player of the Year. Regional 6A North Player of the Year. NFHCA and Max Field Hockey All South Region selected 4 times. 4 times All-State honoree, 2 times Conference Player of the Year, 2 times team captain her junior year and her senior year, first team All-American, USA Field Hockey U17 national team 2015 through 2016, junior national camp 2015, 2017, 2018, Junior Olympics 2013, 2014, 2015, and midfield at the University of Louisville Cardinals in the ACC. So today, Mackenzie Karl, I guess, is going to give us some information. She's going to be raw, she's going to be authentic, and she's going to share some information, answer some questions that she's not going to be used to answering. But I think she's going to do a pretty good job of answering because I'm the one asking these
We're gonna
questions.
peel back some layers today. How about
We're
that?
going to peel back some layers. We're going to tap into the dark side and come back to the light.
Yes.
Mackenzie Karl, welcome. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Ken. It's good to see you as always.
Oh, it's been a while. I think through a lot of this stuff that, but 2015, 2016, 2017, 20, I was there for a lot of that ride.
You were there for a majority of it. I want to say all of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I'll say for my part, it's just be along the ride with somebody to kind of see them maturate and go from where we started together to where you ended up playing 4 years in college in the ACC, which is one of the toughest conferences for field hockey. Um, you know, that's one of the many reasons why I do what I do. So you've been a huge part. And I'll say this, my first couple of interviews, you, Sophie, Sammy Stone, you girls are the reason why I'm doing what I do and why I even love what I do even to this day. So I don't take it light at all, the fact that, you know, I was part of your process and your journey, but kudos to you guys. You guys were a huge part of my process and my journey and able to do what I do and why I wanted to continue to get better every single year.
Well, I
So
think
that said, let's have a little fun with some interview. Are
let's
you
do it.
ready?
Yep.
Are you scared by any chance?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Don't be scared. It's gonna be fun. All right, let's go. Let's see how far your memory serves you back. Let's go back to a little bit of roots. Take us back to the beginning when you first started playing field hockey. Um, and when did you realize that this was not just another sport that you were playing to waste time and to hang out with your friends, but this was actually a sport that you wanted to do something in and you felt like you could be good at this and you wanted to try to take this to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I played four sports, and whenever people would ask me, I'd name them in the order of what I liked the most to what I liked the least. And I would always say soccer, lacrosse, basketball, field hockey. So field hockey was not number one for me when I was growing up. And
Field
I
hockey was always in the back, like basketball
was
for you?
because I think that, I didn't want to necessarily fall into like the funnel that my mom and my sister had created already. And I wanted to kind of do my own thing. Um, Growing up also and just like getting older, quit soccer, didn't love it as much. I was a 5'1" point guard for basketball, so that wasn't going to take me very far.
I don't
And
think you were gonna
then
make it to the ACC with that.
going through just like some hard times with lacrosse and like different coaches that I had that made me fall out of love with it as well. Um, the ending sport was field hockey and field hockey only. I played lacrosse up until freshman year of high school, but I think that prior to that, obviously, like recruitment had started, camps, clinics, college visits, and all of that was definitely top of mind. Um, and then I thought, I was like, it'd be really cool to follow in that funnel of my family and continue on with field hockey. And I knew that I had a gift and I might as well take advantage of it and be able to take it to the highest level that I possibly could. Um, had incredible support system with my family and all the coaches that I had had in the past. Um, Maybe sometimes one could argue a little bit too much support where sometimes it wasn't as fun for me to continue playing. I had a couple of times in high school where I sat my mom down and I didn't necessarily want to continue with playing. And I knew deep down that probably wasn't an option. Um, but I think sometimes you get a little overworked and you burn out sometimes growing up when you're constantly go, go, go. But obviously, in the long run, things pan out the way that they're supposed to, and you end up where you're supposed to be, and that happened to be Louisville for me.
So all right, here's our first layer that we're gonna peel back. No, I think it's important. You mentioned that you sat your mother down and had a conversation because at some point you felt like you didn't want to continue down this path. I know for a fact from being a coach and coaching with a bunch of different coaches, some coaches have kids on the team, some coaches don't. I know for a fact that playing for your parent can be very, very difficult.
Mhm.
As far as you can remember, take yourself back to that. Was it was it so much that you were burning out from just the constant grind, or was part of it the fact that it was you found it a little bit difficult to play for your mother and then have to go home and live, sounds bad, but live with your
Okay.
mother,
Yeah.
which is the thin line that a lot of athletes and a lot of parents have a hard time when you have a parent who's a coach. Um, can you take us back to that a little bit? Which was the reason why you think that you were kind of not sure if you wanted to continue that journey?
I don't think that it had to do with my mom. I think that it was more of a burnout feeling itself. Um, Two very different, like, situations and issues that were going on throughout high school with it. Um, I think that my mom and I eventually got to figure out that, okay, like, she is very, very hard on me, harder than she was with most of the other girls. And so I wanted to separate myself from that. And obviously, like, I love getting pushed, I love the challenge and all of it. But, as any person in high school would, get annoyed with their parents constantly just telling you what to do, um, even when you're going to play your sport and then coming at home. So we actually figured out a best case scenario where my assistant coach, Sherry Mossage, she and I were very, very close. She was like another mother to me in high school. She really took it on for me, and anything that my mom wanted to say to me, it would really go through her, which was, I think that it helped mine and my mom's relationship a lot. And my mom and I really came out of that stronger as like a person or a player and a coach, and also just like person to person and mother to daughter. As far as burnout went, you're in high school, you're creating friendships and relationships. I think that I really got in my head at the fact that I was missing out on a lot of the college experience. And it really got to me. I didn't have that many friends that, at least at my specific high school and my grade, that were going off to play at the next level. I didn't go to homecoming some years. Being able to like go out to after things, like after football games with friends and stuff. I was on a very tight curfew and tight ship ran by my parents, which now hindsight, I understand why. They didn't want me to ruin a good thing that I had with a scholarship and going to college. They were really looking out for me. And I think that in the time, I was like, why don't you want me to be able to experience what all of my friends were at the same time? So I think that that was also a hard thing. And I just realized that like I wasn't getting like my summers off. I wanted to go to the beach to do something like that. And it came to a point where I was just like, I don't want to continue this. I don't want my life to be consumed by this sport anymore because I feel like it has been for majority of my life. And my mom and I sat down and she was like, okay, like, why don't you just take like a month or two off? Like, focus on yourself, do what you need to do to be able to get back into that headspace, maybe separate a little bit to then make you realize that, like, this is something that you want to do. And after a lot of thought and just like sitting down and having those conversations, it would have been very dumb of me to throw all of that away. I've been working so hard for majority of my life, and it paid off in college. So yeah, I think that a lot of people go through that mindset that like this is hard and I don't want to do it. But when you push through those, like you come out such a stronger person and individual, like even outside of sports, but just like as a person in life.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's actually great transition because my next question was going to be, as you were going through this, excuse me, this journey, this grind, this pathway, um, at that particular time and moment, you probably had an idea of what it was like or what was needed to make it to college.
Mhm.
In reality, how what did you think it was, and how different was it in reality for you as you went through that process and got closer and closer to actually being recruited and actually making it to be a collegiate athlete?
Yeah, I mean, like, in high school, you have a very small percentage of people that end up in going playing in the next level. And so obviously your competition is not as strong as it is when you get to the next level. I knew what I was expecting, but I also think that there was a level of shock when I got there. It's easy to create all of these accolades and earn all of these accolades in high school and growing up and everything. But everybody has those accolades when you get to college. And you are a big fish in a big pond. And I thought getting into college, I was in a big pond. And it was a reality check for me. You also go through some recruiting processes and you're told everything that you want to hear, and not all of those things end up working out for you, obviously, because not everything is given. Like everything is earned at that point to get to the next level. And I think that it was a little bit of an adjustment for me, um, getting through that, but also just the training aspect. I think that you had prepared me great when I got there. Like nothing was a shock to me. I had started lifting and conditioning my freshman year of high school, so I did feel ready in terms of that aspect. I think that there are people that go in and aren't necessarily trained like that. And it is a big shock for them. Not just like the field hockey aspect, but the strength and conditioning part as well. At least if you can have one of those down, then you're setting yourself up for a little bit more of success. Um, but yeah, I think that like growing up, anything, whether it was field hockey or strength and conditioning, I think that I was set up pretty well.
What do you think was the biggest shock to your system and the biggest surprise once you got to school, athletic wise?
Mm, I've never been a fan of running. You know
You?
that.
I would
I
have never
absolutely
guessed that.
despised it, which is crazy, choosing a running sport to continue on playing. Some people just have it naturally. I don't. And so I needed to work harder at that, put in extra time, and really put my head down to focus on that. Um, and then also, I'm a 5'1", very small girl. And I think that just like the size competing in the ACC, but also the Big Ten, was a very big shock. I'd be looking up at girls that are like 6'1" and just like almost double my size, and very intimidating to be up against that, but also being able to have the confidence in yourself that you can do it and you were meant to be there, makes a big difference.
Right. One last question in regards to this. Um, Looking back, what do you wish somebody would have told you that you think would have better prepared you and would have made that journey to get into college a little bit different or easier for that matter? Or it could be you people told you everything, you didn't listen, or people told you everything you thought you were properly prepared.
Yeah, I think it's that one where I think that you're told everything that you want to hear and that you're in the correct spot. I think a big change from when I got recruited to when like girls are getting recruited now. I committed February of my sophomore year of high school. I don't know what I want to do February of my sophomore year of high school. Like the fact that that has already been pushed back, I think is fantastic. I think that I could have taken more time to go and visit other colleges rather than the ones that I did. Ask more questions for transparency. Ask the girls on the team for transparency. I think that if I wasn't told all the things that I had hoped and was expecting, I probably would have gone somewhere else. That probably would have fit me a little bit, or I would have fit into a little bit more than where I did.
It's an honest answer. I like that. So before we leave high school, let's talk about that senior year.
Mhm.
24 and 0, 18 shutouts. What I say, you gave up a total of 7 goals all year. Um, what was that like? What was that like going through that season? And not just from a personal standpoint, but like there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with because every single time you win, another layer of pressure gets mounted onto that, and then the expectation hits. Kind of walk us through what that felt like, because I know you said earlier that was the best season ever. Kind
Yeah.
of walk us through that.
Preseason for all of high school, we would have these journals that my mom would hand out to us. We'd write in them every week. All of our post-game notes, just like how you're feeling about things. In the beginning, you'd write your goals out for the season. All 4 years of high school, I would write, I want to win districts, region, and states. Everybody would always look at me crazy, thinking that that was never possible. And I said it again senior year, and I wanted to go on that hill that we would go out. I wanted a ring so badly for not just me, but my class, my team, my mom, because I knew that that was going to be her last year of coaching. And I think that we did a lot better than most people were expecting. We had a goalie that had never played goalie before. She was a soccer player. I think absolutely crushed it. We didn't have fantastic players all like along the whole entire field. And so I do think it's a little bit of a shock for everybody. But going on throughout that whole season was, I mean, it's something that I won't forget. It's incredible, just like an awesome feeling, a high that you're riding that whole entire season. And I think that people started to realize, like, once we won region, that okay, like this is a possibility. And then the other girls started were starting to believe in everything that I was believing since the beginning. But there's also that fact of like nerds and realistic like vision of when you get to states, you're playing on water-based turf, you're playing against the beach teams that are really good, who have a lot more people going to the next level and playing. Playing in the state finals when we were up 1-0 and then it was tied and then we scored again, just realizing that like, okay, this is it and we're gonna win and we're gonna go out with an undefeated season. It was just an incredible feeling knowing like started to where we ended. And it was just like a ending.
Was there one moment where you knew that something special was going to happen? Like, when did you know we got a chance to do this?
I don't think until like we won like we got to the finals. I mean, playing First Colonial, there was always a rivalry between us and them with our coaches and also just like the girls that were playing. And I think once we got the lead on it, then we realized that it was something that we were ready to do.
I remember I was at the game, and I remember your face and one of your teammates' face when you guys actually won the game. Actually, I have that picture as one of my screensavers that rotates on actually it's on my TV in my living room. So that was a fun experience. You earned All American honors. You represented the USA on the U19 national team. Um, Now I remember, I'm not going to disclose the entire conversation, but I remember a conversation that you and I had after you came back from Nexus.
Yeah.
Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
Um, and you had your questions, you had your reservations, right? I think that was one of your first times where I and I'm gonna give you my observation and my assumption, and you can correct it. But I felt like that was the first time that you felt like you were around other players who were just as good, if not better than you. And there was a moment in time going through that process that it caused you to question yourself a little.
Definitely.
How did you how did you use that moment knowing that either at that point you had a decision to make, right? And you're going to continue down this pathway and choose to deal with this because that's the level of competition that you're going to have in college? Or are you going to kind of tuck your tail and be like, yeah, this isn't for me? Like, how did you process that? I mean, I know we had our conversation,
Mhm.
but internally, pre our conversation, post our conversation, how did you kind of process that?
Well, I think that you get to a point as well, just realizing that maybe you're not going to continue on with specific teams like USA. And I think that my fate, or whatever you want to call it, was just to go to the next level and play in college. I kind of removed myself from the USA aspect of it all, where I realized this isn't something that I need to continue playing in, not something that I necessarily want to continue playing in. I don't think that it was because of the better competition or anything, but I did realize that those girls want this maybe a little bit more than I do, and I'd rather not dedicate my whole entire life to this because I'm already going to play in college. And I think that that's where like I hit my goal, and that's the only thing that I wanted to achieve.
That's actually, that's actually pretty mature at that age to kind of realize that because I think a lot of people, a lot of kids get caught up, at least from the kids that I've worked with,
Hmm.
a lot of kids get caught up in the idea that they have to continue to do both things because they can't do one without the other. So that's actually pretty mature that you were able to kind of separate that out and kind of say, you know what, that's not for me, but I'm still going to go ahead and continue with the collegiate path. Now, did you ever think that as challenging as that was for the USA stuff, did you ever make the comparison that these are the same type of athletes you're going to be playing against in college, or you were just USA versus college was the only thing on your mind?
I knew that obviously there were girls that I was going to be playing against in college, but I mean, USA stuff is like that's the best of the best of college. And so that was definitely my highest competition that I was participating in comparison to college.
Now, let's talk about you preparing for college. In your opinion, do you think you did everything that you were supposed to do beyond practice? Uh, yes or no?
I mean, I feel like you can always add in more. Like there's always more that you can like strive to achieve in preparing.
I- Is that your way of saying no without saying no?
Correct.
Now, all jokes aside, like obviously you did stuff outside of practice, right? You wouldn't have made it to where you made it if you just kind of did whatever was normal, what everybody else was doing, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you did that you felt helped you that you did outside of practice, whether it's having a stick in your hand for 30 minutes a day, or whether it's, well, we know you didn't run on your own, but that's another conversation. But what, what are some of the things that you did when nobody was looking that you think put you in a position to succeed?
So it was actually really nice going into my senior year of high school. We typically have um, 7 periods of classes. And so I got a waiver where I only had to take 5 classes senior year. So I got to leave early every day. And during those times, I spent my precious time with you. Um, Outside of season, I was going to you 5 days a week, lifting, conditioning. Um, Not necessarily too much with a stick in my hand, which is kind of weird to say. I think that I did some things with you on the side, but not do too much on my own. It's like all my USA stuff, future training, all of that, camps, clinics. But I'd say from the lifting and conditioning standpoint, everything I did on the outside.
So that's okay. Let's go ahead and transition into that then. You work with me. We had some fun years together
Some
getting you
fun times,
prepared.
some not so fun times,
Well, they were all fun for me. I don't know what you're talking about.
because you like to see me cry.
Okay. Speaking of crying, I wasn't going to bring this up.
My first
Do
day?
do you remember your first day?
Kenny, I don't think I could ever forget. My eyes are starting to water thinking about it.
Your PTSD about it?
That was like the worst day of my life, I think.
Okay, that's a little dramatic. I'm pretty sure you've had some bad days beside that.
That one
But
was pretty bad.
all jokes aside, let's take us back to that first day. Um, what take us through what was going through your mind in the midst of the training and then afterwards? Because I think in the midst of the training, you were fine. I
I was
think
fine until some plate pushes at the end. And then when I couldn't walk after that and I had a lacrosse game the next day, my mom
so you
called you and she was like, Kenny, she can't
no,
walk.
she did not call me. She showed up at the gym. She's like, Kenny, I had to talk to you.
She's like,
Like,
what did
yes,
you do to
ma'am.
my daughter?
She goes, we got to do something about Mackenzie. It's like, why? What's going on? She goes, she can't walk. She literally can't walk, and we have a game tonight.
I actually don't think that I've ever been more sore in my life. I never trained like that before.
No, you didn't. That was the first time. I think that was the first time you've ever been pushed to your limits. And I'm going to say this, and I've told a million people this before. There's really two type of athletes in the world. One type of athletes are those who are talented and just have the DNA to be good at what they're good at. And then you have those who aren't as talented. Those who are not as talented learn really, really early on how to work hard, how to grind, how to push through, how to test their limits, because that's the only thing they know to be able to compete against the talented players.
Mm-hmm.
The talented players who it just comes natural to, in most cases, don't really see the need to work hard because they're just better than everybody early on, right? Now, as you go through the process and as you go through club and as you get to college, the playing field kind of levels out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was because arguably you were one of the best field hockey players in the state. And as you said, you did a lot of that. You accomplished a lot of that without having to stick in your hand all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was like one of the first times you've ever been introduced into being pushed to your limits a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was also my freshman year of high school. That was spring of my freshman year because I was playing lacrosse. Thank God I started then and not any later.
It wasn't that bad. But yes, you did cry.
Kenny, it was horrible.
And your best friend, Sammy, consulted you. I remember that.
I wouldn't have gotten through it without Sammy.
So, why did you come back? And don't say because my mom made me.
Well, one, my mom made me, and two, one, I think playing in like a club environment and then being friends with Sammy and Callie Renison and all of these people who are also playing at the next level, they were doing it. And doing it with other people is so much more enjoyable than doing it by yourself because you're all trying to reach the same goal as well. Um, and
It's
also
not
just,
it's not enjoyable just training with me.
it's fine. It's not the same. You're not doing it with me.
Well, if
And
you were crying for that, I mean, you would definitely cry every time you worked out with me.
there were some other times too. That wasn't the last.
Well, there's been some stories, but I'm not going to talk about that right now.
But I think also just like knowing that I did want to get to the next level, this was the stuff that I had that like had to be done. And being able to recognize that early on, like is I know that kids are starting in like middle school now, which is fantastic. But at least getting started as early as your freshman year is going to help tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see a difference in how I train and the age that kids are coming in. My first wave of kids, you, Sammy, Paige, uh, Callie, I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I got you guys when you guys are already on the upswing going into college.
Yeah.
So I never got a chance to see the beginning of the process with you guys. So even though for me personally as a trainer, it was fulfilling seeing you guys go from where I got you to actually ultimately going on and playing in college. I didn't get to see the full spectrum of where you started to where you ended. And now that kids are starting to come a little earlier, a little younger, I'm actually starting to see that full spectrum of where they're starting and where they go.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also seeing the other thing that I'm seeing that's pretty interesting. I'm also seeing kids realizing earlier that this isn't what they want. And so they kind of slowly bow out of the whole process of playing in club and even being in the recruitment process, which, from a trainer's perspective is a little bit frustrating sometimes. But I think it's good because a kid is making those decisions earlier on, instead of wasting time, wasting their parents' money, wasting a lot of travel, going
I
to
think you'd rather weed them out early.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. But it gets a little frustrating when you're seeing somebody who's really, really talented and really, really naturally good that kind of bows out because they just don't want to do the extra work. So that kind of gets frustrating a little bit. And you dabbling in coaching, you've seen that too as well. So that's kind of frustrating. So once we got past the crying, and once we got into a point where you were actually coming consistently, and you, like you said, your senior year, you were able to get an early release out of school to come train. Take us through that experience. What was that like? What were the things that you started to see that were different, that was easier, that you would be able to accomplish more and felt like you could do more? What Take us through that experience and that process a little bit for you.
I think in the beginning, obviously, like when you start lifting and stuff, your body's just not used to it and all the different muscles that are being used throughout it. And it's hard. Like it's not easy and sometimes it sucks and it's not enjoyable. But I think something that I really looked forward to, like I'd come in at the end of my senior year and I'd be wanting to add more weight. I'd want to increase because we'd keep track of the weights that we were using before. And just to see that continuous improvement and that continuous strength was something that I was continuously striving for. And also, there's always a sense of like external validation where, like, you told me good job, then that would help me feel a lot better about myself and gain confidence as well.
Don't tell people I do nice stuff. You're gonna ruin my reputation.
Kenny has a soft heart if you haven't seen it yet.
Okay, this is going. So I'm editing that part out, by the way. I just want you to know that. So now let's talk about this, and we're gonna make a transition to something that I'm doing now that I don't think you guys were able to take full advantage of, but you guys are the reason why I'm doing it. Obviously, when you're working out, obviously you're coming to the gym, like you said, lifting weights and setting personal records and challenging yourself to lift more. So obviously there's a physical connection and there's a physicality aspect of training. Do you think for you personally there was ever a connection between the physical and the mental and how that translated onto the field based on what you were doing in the weight room and in conditioning?
Yeah, definitely. I think that your mind always goes before your physical. And I think that it relates to on the field and off. Like your mind can continue to tell you no, but your body will continue to tell you yes. And just being able to differ those and continue to push through mentally will probably push you to more limits than you realize that you can get to.
Um, Tell me something that you did in a weight room or in conditioning that directly translated to on the field, whether it was in high school or in college.
I'd probably say I had really small and weak arms. And I think lifting and continuing to build like arm strength, one of my specialties was a reverse chip as a shot in high school and college. And being able to see like the trajectory of that, whether it was aim or just the power from it, was significantly different between high school and college.
Now, let's go back to the mental aspect. From what you were able to tap into being mentally tough and mentally succeeding and doing things that maybe you didn't think you were able to do in the weight room, is there anything specific that you can tap into from the mental aspect that translated directly onto the field? Again, either in high school and college. I'm assuming it probably had a bigger role in college.
Yeah. I think like going back to like run tests and remind you, I was never a great runner. And I passed my freshman year fitness tests, both of them. And honestly, I didn't know if I was going to be able to. But mentally and physically pushing myself throughout that process and that day and those like 30 minutes that I ran it in, um, I think definitely like proved a little bit more to myself that I was meant to be there. And I could keep up with some people during play.
Cool. Now we're in the age of social media.
Mm-hmm.
We see people post pictures of themselves in the gym. We see quotes, mental toughness quotes, and we see all these grinding quotes and all that kind of good stuff. I talk about mental toughness all the time with my athletes. I talk about it. It's one of the things I feature on this podcast when I talk about it. Um, what does mental toughness actually look like in real competition? Again, we're not talking about the Instagram posts. We're not talking about, you know, all these little posters that people create and sell. Like in real life, what do you think mental toughness meant and looked like for you?
Um, I think that growing up, I always would label myself as a perfectionist, even though that's not realistic for anybody. And with being a perfectionist comes a lot of failure. And I think being able to fail continuously over and over again, but being able to push past that to then succeed and learn from those failures or those mistakes that you made in the past, um, shows a lot about mental toughness and being able to persevere through certain situations, whether that's skill sets, playing time, injuries. There's a lot of different factors that can play into.
So when you had those failure moments, how did you reset yourself? Like, how did you get yourself out of those little mini failure moments that you had?
I think realizing that you're not going to be able to either like acquire a new skill or recover from an injury without failure, like it's inevitable. It's going to happen to everybody. It's going to happen a couple times before you actually start to see improvement. And I think being able to like separate yourself from that, like everything has to be done well the first time that you do it, it's just not realistic for people. And I think that you look at people and realize, like, think that they're perfect and everything that they do is just a 10 out of 10 experience. But internally, everything is also always dealing with a certain failure that they're trying to get past.
Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Through my experience over a decade of training athletes, one thing that I see that happens every time is that when you get there as a freshman, no matter how confident you are going through your recruitment process or how good you are in high school, there's a little confidence hit once you get to college. I think it's like a reality check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you have any lacks in confidence in your 4-year career at college? And if so, how did you kind of rebuild your confidence out of that? And if you did, who, if anybody, helped you with that process?
I think my whole 4 years, I struggled with confidence issues on the field. Um, College was a really hard time for me. And I think that there were a lot of different aspects and factors that went into it that caused it, whether it was playing time, coaches, teammates. I think all of those were a little bit of a dagger in my confidence throughout those 4 years. You can always rely on your parents to support you, but they're supporting you from states away and they're not there with you throughout the whole process, every conversation that you're having, every practice that you go through, or every game that you're in. And I think also just, yes, external validation is really nice, but not everybody's going to give it to you. And I think just having like the internal confidence to be able to continue to pursue, you were recruited there for a reason. You were meant to be there for a reason. And just always keep in the back of your mind. I do think that I lost sight of that for a good bit of college because I think that once we got knocked down, it kept knocking me down. Also, being able to have those hard conversations with either your teammates or your coaches and saying that like where you're at mentally will only do you well. Um, I'm not a big fan of having tough conversations with people, especially with like an authority figure as a coach. Sometimes they're not as receptive to things because they can do no wrong in their eyes. And if that's the case, you always have people that have always believed in you from the start that'll give you that confidence back.
So you've experienced 4 years playing with a bunch of different athletes, playing against a bunch of different athletes. You probably played against some athletes who we would consider below average.
Mhm.
Probably played with some athletes who we would consider above average. And you probably played with some athletes that you would consider elite or, perfect athlete, um, great, if we want to use that word.
Mhm.
What do you think is the separator at that next level? Because like you said, there's a whole bunch of different variables. You have personality types, you have people who are, riding the confidence roller coaster. You have people who think they're better than everybody else, but really isn't. We have people who come in prepared. You have people who don't come in prepared. What do you think the mental difference is between, your average and below athletes and your good or great athletes?
Probably one, always the outside training time that you put aside for yourself, like one-on-ones, individuals that you have with other teammates and coaches. I also think that a big thing is just consistency in itself with playing and how you play. Um, I also think that with the confidence, like internally, people will go out there and they think that there's no wrong that they can do. But that's also because coaches will say that they can do no wrong. So I think that that also helps in itself. But like I think the players that I played against with, I do think that it's the extra time they put in, but also just the confidence that they have in themselves. That like they'll make a mistake, that's fine, and they'll bounce back. And they're still meant to be there, and they're still going to continue to do great things and have a good game. Because one little mistake or a couple little mistakes during a game doesn't necessarily define you as a player.
Good. All right. ACC, tough conference, right? Let's talk to some of the athletes out here right now. So, what do you think every sophomore, junior, and in some cases seniors who haven't committed, what do you think they should be doing right now that you feel like most aren't doing to prepare themselves for A, the recruitment process,
Mm-hmm.
and B, actually getting and playing and being successful in college?
I don't think that you can go and play at the D1 level if you're not involved with USA stuff. I don't know how it is now because I've been out of college for a little bit and out of high school for so long. But that's mainly where they do all their recruitments. You're not going to get visuals from your high school team. You can make tapes. Coaches really sit down and take the time to look at tapes, because you're only doing your highlights. Um, Competing in club tournaments, being able to show yourself that you are able to put the time aside to go and do those extra trainings for strength and conditioning. And then also just like outreach for coaches, putting your name out there, your photo out there, um, showing what showcases you're going to be at, try to go to as much camps and clinics as possible. I mean, I spent my summers up going to a bunch of camps and clinics every other week. So I don't think that it's an easy thing. It's not something that just comes to you. You definitely have to put the time and work into it to prove that that's what you want to do.
So, as a former college athlete who watched kids come in every year, as a former high school field hockey coach, and as a coach who coached at the club level,
Mm-hmm.
beyond skills, what do you think coaches at the next level are looking for? And what do you think teammates at the next level are looking for from players that are coming in?
I think just being a sponge, being able to take criticism and praise the same exact way, but also when you get feedback, really taking the time to focus in on it, really work on it. Um, I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay. So this will probably help you a little bit. So let's talk to the same, sophomore, junior, possibly even senior. Those who are eager and hungry and think they want to play at the next level. What would you tell them is the most important thing that they need to hear right now to be successful, and even something that you felt like you needed to hear going through your process that you didn't hear?
There's going to be so many more tough times than there are easy times. You're going to the next level to challenge yourself, and it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Your coach is not there to be your best friend. They have a job to do. They're making money for your university, and they get paid based off of your performance. And so if you're not performing well, then you're not going to make it there. But I also think for a player's individual mindset, being realistic with where you choose. I know that everybody wants to be able to go to the best college and get really cool gear from Nike or whoever they're sponsored by. But those shouldn't be top of mind things. I think that you should go to a spot where you're comfortable, you know that you can succeed and your voice is going to be heard. And as for like being a teammate, just be a good person. I feel like this it's kind of hard to just like trust people. Everybody's out for themselves, but being able to be just like a team player, being authentic and genuine, just being a good human being, it's going to get you a lot further.
Yes, that's exactly what Sophie said. Being a
Really.
good teammate. Yeah, yeah, I thought that's pretty interesting. What would you say to a kid who feels like the pressure from their parents and the pressure from themselves and the pressure from some of their coaches to be perfect? How do you tell those kids to deal with those things and kind of still be able to compete at a high level with that kind of pressure on their shoulders?
Pressure's a privilege. Everybody has pressure from at least somebody or something in their life. Um, but I think also just like looking out for yourself, always putting yourself first. I know it's really hard to get to the point where you don't care about like external factors or people being in your ear. It's gotten me until after college to realize that. I think that if I could have taken that into consideration beforehand, I would have been a lot happier as a player, but also a person in itself. I think that we get so wrapped up about what other people are saying, whether it's their opinions, feedback, ideas, any of that. But like you're the only person that knows where you're supposed to be in life and where you can get to in life. So just keeping that like realistic vision for yourself.
Final two questions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have one of these young athletes sitting in the room next to you right now. What do you say to her if she's doubting if she's good enough, if she's wondering should she try it, if she's in fear of failing and not getting accepted to the perfect school? What do you tell her to keep her going? What do you tell her um, that you think would help her the most?
There's a right fit out there for everybody. You just have to realize how far you want to reach for it and if the time that you put in is going to lead to that like reality dream school that you want to go to.
And then last question, this whole journey of yours from
Mm-hmm.
starting field hockey when you could barely chew gum and walk at the same time to starting your fitness journey and training journey with me, um, through your 4 years in college and now as a professional woman. What are some of the things that you've learned through this journey, through this process of being an athlete that has gone on to help you in your professional career?
Making it through those 4 years of college, and my mom will stand on this hill as well, I think that I can do anything. I can make it through anything. Those are the hardest 4 years that I've ever been through, and my years after college have kind of been a walk in the park. And it's just life that you're living now. Like, you don't have this pressure. Like, you can work a job and have certain pressure to you, but I don't think that anything will come close to being an athlete in college and working for that goal. Um, I also think that like my senior year of college, when I was done with field hockey as a whole, and I was looking to get a job outside of college, people really take into consideration that you're an athlete, and there's a lot more trust in you. You have a lot more skill sets that can be brought over from being a player over into the professional world, whether that's like time management skills, communication skills, being able to take constructive criticism from people, that outside pressure that you always get from practices or games or training. Um, those 4 years were really hard, but I think coming out, you become a lot stronger of an individual and person.
Do you remember a conversation that we had? I'm not sure what year. It might have been between your freshman and sophomore year. You came into the gym. You called because you wanted to work out, and we didn't get a chance to work out at all. And we had this conversation about your continuing to play. Because at that time, I think you were like, I'm done. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. Do you remember that? Do you remember what I
Maybe
told you?
no.
I told you 5 years after you graduate, you're going to look back at that. And if you continue to play, it's going to help you so much more in life because you're going to develop skills that every single boss in the world are going to assume that you have just because you were an athlete on a team for 4 years. They're not going to ask you how many years you started. They're not going to
Mm-mm.
ask you how many minutes you played. They're not going to, but if you quit, that's going to be one of the first questions. Why did you stop playing? Right.
Mhm.
And I told you, like, just hang in there because when you get into the real world, everything that you go through is going to make sense and it's going to all be worth it. You were on the assault bike in the corner of the weight room when we had that conversation,
But not
and
the
we never
assault
and we
bike.
never worked out that day.
I don't remember that, but thank you for
Yeah,
having that conversation with me.
no, you were not to put your shit out in the street,
I was
but
down bad.
you was down and you was on a ledge. You
Yeah, I
you
was.
came in. You was fine when you walked in, but within 30 seconds you were crying.
Yeah.
And so that workout session became a mental coaching session.
I think we've had
And
a lot of
actually,
those in the past.
well, that's one of the things that I do now with my kids. I do mental coaching with these kids because, I didn't do it with you guys as much because, listen, pre-COVID, post-COVID, athletes are completely different.
Mhm.
You, Sammy, Paige, those group of girls, you guys were just wired different. You guys wanted it. You wanted to train. You wanted to work out. Some of you wanted to run. Some of you didn't want to run, but you guys wanted it. And so, like, I felt like the mental part, the mental toughness part for you guys didn't really play a role until after you got to college.
Yeah.
And I think post COVID, I think the mental aspect is getting to these kids a lot younger.
Mhm.
So I spend a lot more time doing mental coaching with these kids. I make some of them get on a phone call with me, once a week, and we
Mhm.
just kind of discuss what's going on, and we kind of have goals that we set, and we kind of knock them down and attack them every single week. There's some kids that I've developed some mental coaching courses that I have them go through. So it's completely different, but I learned what I learned from training you guys. So, in a roundabout way, thank you for helping me become a better coach. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without you.
Well,
14 years later, Ken, we're getting old.
well, you're getting old, okay? I'm not getting old. I'm not getting old. Well, Mackenzie, thank you for the conversation. It's my whole thing in doing this, like I said earlier, is I want to bring value and I want to be able to help the next wave of kids, whether I'm training them or whether I'm just doing some mental coaching with them. I think the insight that you gave today, if any of these kids are actually listening or the parents are listening, I think you've given some gems that could be shared with the kids. And if
Always
you're
here to
listening and
help.
you're watching, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said always here to help.
Wow, well, you always do help. And listen, if anybody out here who's listening and watching, if you heard anything that you like, if you heard anything that you think would be of value to you or being value to your athletes, your teammates, if you're a parent or if you're a coach, you think it'd be of value to some of your athletes, please don't hesitate and share it. Um, one of my big things as a trainer is I niche down to working with female athletes, and I think I've been able to influence athletes on the female side of things pretty good. And Mackenzie, you're a prime example of not only the results that come from not just physically working out, but also mentally being open minded enough to take coaching on and off the field. So I
Mhm.
appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate you making me look good, and I love the human being and the adult that you've become.
Oh, I love you, Ken. Thankful for you.
I love you too. It's awesome. Well, that's all I have. Is anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to say besides calling me names that nobody should be knowing about and telling people that I'm nice?
No, I think that's it.
Thank you very much for taking your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Till next time, people. Have a good one.
All right.
Mackenzie,
What?
let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.